Welcome to A Delhi Love, Ishq Mohabbat Pyar, the podcast that treats Delhiwalas to captivating conversations on living and loving all things Delhi. Delhi is not just a place, it's a state of mind, an attitude that leaves a mark on everyone who visits or calls it home. I'm Yasmin Kidwai, your host, a documentary filmmaker, former municipal councillor, and at heart, the quintessential Delhi girl. I love how Delhi is both old and new at the same time. I value its history and heritage and love exploring the new aspects of the city we share. I'm no expert, but I grew up in the gullies here, enjoyed public service here, and just like you, shared a deep passion for Delhi's enigmatic soul. Together, let's embrace the delightful contradictions that make Delhi the city it is. After all, around every corner, there must be 1,000 dastans to share in this megacity of a million conversations. Delhi has a unique feel about it. But does it also have a unique style? One part of Delhi is very different from another. Many Delhis coexist at the same time, and they are all comfortably Delhi. A home in Delhi is a dream to many, and some are blessed to have the means to build dream homes. These homes reflect Delhi in transformation. They combine the best ideas of the East and the West and create an amalgam that could only be Delhi. Interior designers and architects help create the language that becomes the city's identity. Today, we are meeting a doyen of the world of design. Raseel Gujral is a highly respected and accomplished interiors architect known for her unique design approach that blends traditional Indian elements with contemporary styles. Her innovative and bold design choices set her apart, even as they reflect her deep appreciation for Indian culture and heritage. A trendsetter in the design world whose insights into upcoming trends, innovations, and the future of design shape and influence Delhi's aesthetic landscape. Join Raseel and me as we celebrate the city's vibrant design culture and creative talent. Raseel, a very warm welcome to A Delhi Love.
Loving being in your Delhi love.
I hope so. I'm looking forward to the conversation.
So am I.
Tell me, before we go any further, what does an interiors architect mean? I mean, I know architect and I know interior designer. But
all right. So we do architecture. But then when we come to the interior architecture, it is anything which is immovable from within a space. So when you look at air conditioning, when you look at electricals, when you look at flooring, when you look at fixed woodwork, ceiling design, etc., all of that comes under interior architecture.
Okay. And your training is what? As a designer?
My training is as an interior architect.
Okay. So tell us a little bit about your journey from, the early years to the present established self. What inspired you? I assume both your parents were artists and that must have been a huge influence.
See, I mean, it's like aam ke ped pe to phir aam hi lagenge, you know. So there was no question of not being in some form of the applied arts or in the arts, which were daunting. Because my father always said the pure arts are daunting. You have to have a large amount of luck and perseverance in order to even make ends meet. Because he'd had a very tough journey. So as parents, you never want to wish a tough journey on your children, which I think he did us a disservice in some sense, because wherever your passion leads you, you should follow it, and anything else that has to follow as a bonus will follow. Right? So I didn't know whether I wanted to do photography or whether I wanted to do drama or whether I wanted to do, architecture or I wanted to do whatever. I knew I needed to work with space.
Okay, you were clear about that.
Yeah, I was clear that it has to be space, but space which is volume. I do not respond to the micro. It's more to the macro. And I got married very young. I got married at 18 and my father was devastated because he said that I really wanted you to study architecture. So I said, all right, now I'll go to architectural school. So he says, no, now I will train you.
Oh, you trained under him?
Yeah. So my brother and he had an architectural studio. And he says, I have sent one child to an architectural school और उसको मैंने लकीर का फकीर बना दिया है. So you will be homeschooled. So he tutored me.
Oh my God, how lucky.
I think
And
I'm very fortunate.
you obviously the training is coming from your father, Satish Gujral ji. You moved, he also moved seamlessly between forms, and while always telling some story. Does that kind of sense of storytelling come in your work also?
Absolutely. There is storytelling. True, there is a thread that runs through not just the trajectory of my career, but also the different mediums that I handle with ease, which is pretty much what he did. So while he moved from art to architecture, to ceramic, to mural, and everything was play. So that inhibition was absent. Never. He also got a lot of brickbats for it because there is no not staying on the one straightforward path. But he was compelled, as I am. I moved from interior architecture into product design, into graphic design, and it is something that is a compulsion to find new canvases to paint on.
That's an interesting word you use, compulsion, because it's a calling, which is almost a compulsion. What are some of the key principles that define your approach to design?
Fearlessness, Indianness, glamour, vastness.
I think you're describing yourself. Except vastness. The way these are things. I look at you and compliment. I think, it comes from the personality, I feel. But you mentioned that you mentioned spaces and how you like working with a large space. How do you ensure that every space you work with tells a story? Because I believe that is something you would have got from your father.
You see, I think all of us who are in a passion-based profession, you have to surrender to the process, right? So for me, when I take on a project, sometimes it's a greenfield project, which means there's nothing there. And at other times, it's a given space, which has to be reimagined. At other times, it could just be a material I want to work with. So there are a couple of things which are a mantra. One is, you remember everything, but you forget everything, right? Remembering means all the influences, all your technical abilities, and all your experiences, which means experience to solve a particular problem or influence of osmosis. Everything around you, film, art, culture, space, everything around you. And when it comes to forgetting, is then you do not let that bind you anymore, because that means you will cease to be original, even if it is not being a mimic of yourself. So for me, it is very important to remember and then to forget. And whenever I'm working for a client, which means you're in an applied scenario, for me, the process is very important to understand the person behind the words. So you might come to me and say, I want this. I love contemporary. I love Indian. This is my lifestyle. These are the members of my family. But I have to interpret it. But what are you saying that you're not telling me?
How would you look for that?
It's an instinct and it's an understanding. It's a connect. So for me, it's very important to connect, to understand your story, so that I can dream the dream for you that you haven't dreamt yet.
But how much would you, how would I say this? How much of the client's inputs and needs would you take in? And how much would be you in that?
No, see, it's like this. It's like water. And it's like water with a fragrance. And it's like water with a flavor. It's still water. Right? So it passes through you. And you allow it to flour. Right? So you have taken in everything. But if the client wanted to simply express themselves without the interpreter,
Then they would have.
Then they would, and they should. I don't think there's anyone better qualified to do that. But if you're going to go with a design professional, then you must shop around to see who comes closest to where you want to go.
Why do you think people feel the need to go to a design profession? Like, and this,
I'll tell you why.
Because,
I'll tell you why. There is a, firstly, it depends on the complexity. If you're simply talking about decoration, you don't need a person, because anyone with good taste can express themselves, good, bad, or indifferent taste. It's you.
That's relative.
It's you. It doesn't matter. Your space should express you. That's a decorator's job, right? But when things are more complex, when there is a larger amount of money at play, when you have reached a stage in your life where you want to go beyond that which you could imagine, you want somebody who has all the information available to them so that they can interpret it to its maximum level. It's, for example, today there are website templates available. Why do I need to go to a website designer? I have the graphic studio, I have the basic understanding of UX, UI. Why can't I do it myself? Because what the designer can bring to the table with a combination of so many things, I can't.
Interesting. Yeah. The podcast is based around Delhi, and we talk to people from Delhi, and it's always interesting to see how the city has influenced you. And the city with its, it has ancient and modern architecture. It has a very rich cultural heritage, diverse architectural styles. How does the city influence you? You did mention that there's a lot of tradition in your work.
Again, I'll talk about my teacher, and that's my father. And there's one line of his that consistently resonates with me, coming close to 40 years of practice. Okay. It's that just the way the bird shapes the nest shapes the bird. So there is no getting away from your lineage. There is no getting away from your influences. And apart from getting away, I think I am so fortunate to be born in Delhi, because Delhi is very much who I am. Contemporary, traditional. I crave at a visceral level the Mughal as well as the Sasanic combined architectural influences. And I bring that into every aspect. I bring that into my design. I bring that into the way I dress. I bring that into the way I express. Into the literature I read, into the films I consume. So, into the food that I eat. So there is no dividing Delhi from who I am and how it's shaped me.
And how does the cultural diversity of Delhi, does that also reflect in your work? Because I think that is the most beautiful part of our city.
This is something that I am deeply committed to. It's not something, how does it affect me or impact me? I come from a family which, I would say there were two religions. One religion was secularity, and the second religion was art. There was no other religion. So there is a deep commitment to being democratic at all levels, whether it is democracy of art, making it available at a democratized format, as I'm doing with, wallpaper and murals, or democratization of culture. When I talk about even an Eid, I'll talk about how we share so many cultural traditions of henna, or whether we talk about democratization of color. So, for example, a Holi colors us all beyond recognition, right? So, the cultural diversity is something that I am not conscious of because I am so much a part of it. I am not a Delhi-born Hindu. I am a Dilliwala. Right? Now, the Dilliwala is everybody. हम हिंदुस्तानी भी बोलते हैं, हम पंजाबी भी बोलते हैं, हम English भी बोलते हैं. And certain thoughts we can only express in a given language. Right? With a particular music, with a particular nazm which is you've grown up with. So diversity तो हमारे पे रगों में दौड़ रही है ना.
True. True. I think that's one of the most beautiful things that
is Delhi.
Is Delhi. Yeah. And I think what is just given to all of us. So in your work, how do you, when you have to navigate a fusion of contemporary and traditional styles, how do you maintain an authenticity? And also, like I would say, it needs to be relevant to what you're doing.
See, so this is where it comes into remembering and forgetting. So you have a full compendium of vocabulary, right? From the contemporary to the colonial, to the Sasanic, to the Hindu, to that which is you, right? So when I am designing a project, I have to also see the sensitivity of the acceptance of a given vocabulary to the level that it can be expressed. So for example, in my own home, I do have a combination of the Mughal and the Palladian arch combined with the contemporary, with the Jafris. Okay, but for another client, I have to be very particular. No, do not use this arch because it will be not acceptable to them. Let's use this form because it will be acceptable, but bring in that craft from that region because that can be interpreted with any language. So it's a question of navigating people's emotions, acceptance, sensitivity, and yet speaking a language.
You're quite a psychologist also then, you know.
40 साल होने वाले हैं कि लोगों से मिल के you end up meeting people over a period of 3 to 4 years.
I was going to ask, how much time does normally a space take?
So see, when you're starting, if you start as an interior architect, you normally start again when the architect is planning the building. When you start as an architect, you start when they may perhaps not even acquired the land or have just acquired the land. And so as a result, typically it should be a 2-year journey. But with the indecisiveness that exists in our environment, it becomes a 3 to 4 year journey, right? And in that journey, you spend more time understanding each other than you would with your family.
I'm sure, yeah.
You know? And you become privy to a lot of personal battles, personal aspirations, desires. And you might not want to be friends. It's like I have a wallpaper that the tagline is, it's romance, but I wouldn't call it love. So it's a romance, but I wouldn't call it love. So it's a relationship, but I wouldn't call it family. Some end up being closer friends. Some end up being acquaintances, but you know each other intimately.
I love it. So, what are some of the elements you'll consider while designing a space especially in Delhi? Would you take in culture? The climate also and the lifestyle, everything has to go in.
It's everything. I mean, you cannot negate anything. Climate, culture, locale, lifestyle, aspiration.
I think lifestyle and aspiration is very interesting to bring into this space because you can just otherwise make a little museum for somebody.
Yeah, aspiration and lifestyle is very important.
How would you explain that? Give me an example.
For example, let's talk about lifestyle. How many generations are living in this family? Do you have pets? Do you not have pets? How intimate are you with your pets? Do they live in your room? Do they require an area? Right? It's a hot city. That means it needs to be an air-conditioned space, right? How many staff do you have? Sometimes when people are moving through stages of their life, they cannot anticipate the next set of requirements. So it's our job to then set those requirements. Okay, today you might have X, but you will need X amount of staff. This is how you can house them. Today your child is 14, but when he's 24, what are you going to do? We must plan that into the project. Are you going to be living as a nuclear family or will your child live with you?
Oh my God, really make them think. Huh?
Yeah, so you need to think. And a lot of the questions, they are actually very relieved for someone to have preempted them because you're not thinking that far.
Yeah.
You're just, you're 35, 40 yourself. You can't think about when you're 50.
Yeah. So how do you, what does this entail? You'll meet with them again. You have to understand the
so
thing.
So one is this aspect of lifestyle. The other aspect is, how do you live? Do you watch television together? Do you drink? Are you a drinking culture? How much do you entertain? How important is that? You know? So these are lifestyle related. Then they are aspiration related. Aspiration is, why do you need me? What do you want me to do for you? What is it that you feel you can't do that you need me? Or A, B, or C cannot do that I can do? Tell me your reasons. Tell me, okay, what is your dream? That's your aspiration. What is your dream? My dream is that my family came from Shekhawati and I want to represent that, but in a contemporary way. My dream is X, Y, or Z. Somebody comes and says, my dream is my home should just be a palace. You know? So, my dream is it should be something I could never imagine. So, what is your aspiration?
How do you figure that one out? If they can't imagine it, how are you supposed to? So this you were explaining when you work as a as an architect or as an interior architect, when you're working as a interior decorator, and they want you to they want you to do up, but they also want to retain some, we're all attached to furniture or pieces or art or something. And then what do you do? Like, okay, this has to remain.
No, see, the point is
the half job,
as a decorator. See, firstly, I don't take on pure decoration jobs. The decoration, if it is there, is part of the main job. By which time you develop trust, like a doctor or a lawyer. Okay.
With your, that's interesting.
You develop, you see, you have to trust.
Yeah, because you're actually in the very intimate space. You're in their home.
Yeah, and you want to be able to say, look, I would take these decisions considering all your factors, including spend, priority of spend, right? So, I am going to tell you in a very objective manner what is good, bad, and ugly. You want to hold on to it, choice is yours. Over the years, I've become more lenient on that level. I was very cutter.
I was thinking you'd become more cutter, as you know.
No, I've become easier with times because it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. You're attached to it. I mean, I remember in the 90s, somebody had this whole ghastly collection of Yadro.
Oh, acha.
And हमने इतना पैसा खर्चा इस पे है वो ऐसे बिल्कुल बकवास है बंद कर दो गिफ्ट्स में दे देना. So of course everything was put away and I go there unannounced and they're all lying all over. She said, बताना था ना आने से पहले. जब आप नहीं होते हम सब रख देते हैं अंदर. I said, how do the one thing I've noticed, I've noticed it in the last just in the last couple of years, that parts of Delhi have started looking like each other. What you would see as a lane in Greater Kailash, for example, now you also see it in Karol, but they're very different parts of the city. Now they started looking a little similar. And I think professional designers have something to do with it, that different parts of the city are now emulating each other. And is that good or bad? Don't you see the sadness of this city? I mean, there is very little new architecture and city planning or city expressions that I feel proud of.
Actually, come to think of it, there's...
it's all pre-independence, which we can truly say, wow, that's something we're proud of, right? I feel the sadness, and hopefully we'll pass through it. It's not just Delhi, more endemic of the metros, because there's more money and there's more cosmopolitan mix of people coming from everywhere to get jobs and pursue their professions. You see it less in a city, say like Jaipur, which I absolutely love. And you see it less even, say, in Ahmedabad. But, or Chandigarh. But we've got lost, as we have in many areas, whether it is the way we dress, the way we live, the way we eat, the way we consume. and the way we design spaces is that we've become an emulator of a Western culture. We no longer have allowed ourselves to be indigenously evolving. So as a result, what we have is a very banal pastiche across the cities. So whether you go to a Karol Bagh or whether you go to a Janakpuri or whether you go to a lane on Mehrauli Gurgaon Road,
it looks the same.
It looks the same.
Yeah. It doesn't reflect anything about it.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's like, I think we have done it so beautifully with film. I think we've done it beautifully with fashion. You know, where there is a very beautiful evolution of Indianness, but contemporary. You know, so that hasn't hit. It hasn't hit the spaces yet, and people are very fearful. When I started practicing on my own post-tutoring in 86, we were in a post-colonial hangover, and people were scared to do contemporary. So I pushed that boulder up a hill for about 15 years, you know, and said contemporary, but with Indian craft, etc., etc. Then once contemporary became it, then there was just banality, what I call the little black dress syndrome. Everything looked the same. Everything looked the same. And I'll say this to you, Yasmin, that if you see a woman dressed in jeans and a t-shirt or whatever, everyone can look good. Yeah, you can't tell her taste level. The minute you tell her to dress for an Indian occasion, you can immediately tell the class and taste.
So true.
So the same goes for contemporary and traditional evolution of architecture. Contemporary, anyone can do. एक डब्बा बना के बेज मार्बल लगा के बड़ी विंडोज लगा दो, फ्लैट सीलिंग कर दो, हो गया. Finished. So I am finding in the past 2-3 years post-COVID, there is a desire for more. There is a desire for more detail. There is an appreciation for wanting something more than what everyone else has been doing for the past 15 years. Yeah. So it's like a breath, a new gasp.
What would you like to see happening with design?
I would like to see a lot more incorporation of traditional architectural elements in facades of buildings. I would like to see no more aluminium. I would like to see no more sheer glass walls. I would like to not see any more wooden cladding combined with plaster. I'd like to ban these three things. I mean, if you go to, say, like a city like Marrakesh, they have a strict building code. Na? This is the code, these are the colors, and you can't deviate. And it maintains the charm and the heritage of that city. We need define, but that is when you feel the inherent need for it, that the city requires it, our culture requires it, because look at the soullessness of Gurgaon. It's just glass aluminium structures everywhere. Now, neither is that relevant to our climate, nor is it relevant to our culture. Look at the amount of energy bills that we are.
Yeah, because traditional Indian design would also be would be more sustainable.
One, it's sustainable from the point of view of local material.
Yes.
Two, it is sustainable from the point of view of retaining and releasing heat.
Yes, from the climate point of view.
Exactly. Yeah. So hence energy and its consumption. So there is, I would like to see some more. We have to move forward. We can't be nostalgic and stay in a bubble, but we have to evolve. But evolution does not mean throw out the baby with the bathwater. So we are in that baby out with the bathwater phase, and hopefully we'll come back to loving the baby.
Well, obviously, art is very important to you, and you were talking of its influence on you. How do you integrate art into your design projects?
And see, for me, art is the anchor. Art is the anchor for any project. I mean, see, space and the way you design it and the fixed materials that you put in it are like a great body. Okay, now you've got this great body, and now it's a question of how do you adorn it. There was a beautiful book out in the 80s. The title was more beautiful than the book itself. It was about Indian architecture, and it was called The Impulse to Adorn.
The impulse?
To adorn. How we culturally have an impulse to add ornament to whatever whichever space we occupy. So whether it's patterns on the floor, or it's patterns on the ceiling, or it's pattern in the plaster, or it's pattern in the stone. So firstly, that is inherently a part of us, right? We like to wear jewelry, we love art, we love, carved doors, ornaments, sculpture. For me, my idea is to not have gimmicks in design, which means that it's a great body. Now, this body should be able to be interpreted differently every decade. Okay. Because
that's
styles
very
are going to
evolutionary.
change. Styles are going to change. Fashion changes. But you can't change. You shouldn't need to change the basic structure. Your needs may change, but if they've been preempted enough, they would have been encoded in that, right? But at least all you have to do is put in maybe new furniture, anchor it with different art, and just move things around. But the basic body, I mean, if you go into a beautiful colonial home or an old Haveli, the body remains, right? It might be interpreted as a heritage space or as a institution or as whatever, but the body remains. I mean, I was watching that wonderful documentary that William Dalrymple did, which is on the White Mughals.
Achha, I haven't seen that.
Yeah, just one episode set in Hyderabad, and where the building was the residency, right? And today, run down, and in whatever condition it is, it's a women's college, right? But the bones remain, the building remains, the beauty remains. Right? So I would like to imagine that that's what we should do with spaces. That's what I attempt to do with spaces. And typically, 15 years later, a client will come back to me. अब इसको थोड़ा ना रिफ्रेश करना है, या बच्चे बड़े हो गए हैं, अब उनका ये एरिया कर दो, and किसी और के पास नहीं जा सकते because you understand the space better. And 15 years later, I will not forget the space, because if I've worked on something from a design point of view, I know every corner. So that is what evolution should be. The bones remain, the form remains,
and you can just adapt to.
Art, important pieces of art in your 30s, what you may consider important, may not consider important in your 60s. So you might need to place it differently. But so, for example, the main communication tool used today is we 3D visualize everything. And in order to present to a client, and also in order to preempt problems at site, because you've already 3D visualized it. Now, one client says to me, listen, if I take away all the art, what will be left? I said, what you'll be left with is with bare bones, So the art is very important to me as to how it anchors a space.
I've had a brief glimpse at your new wallpapers, the designs that you're bringing in, and they bring in a lot of traditional art to the walls. Is this it's? I hope it's going to make traditional art, more prominent in homes, and definitely a little more accessible.
That's it. See, I'm working with craftsmen and artisanal studios in Rajasthan right now.
And you work with them directly?
Well, I work with them directly. I even work with them through Princess Diya Kumari Foundation. But I've been working with them for 25, 30 years.
Oh, okay.
So 4 projects. So to do frescoes or to do ceilings or to do things like that. So problem is right now they have no sustained work. So I said, okay, we will visualize. You will paint the elements. We will then digitize, incorporate, and present it in a accessible, democratized manner, where it's not a piece of art for 10 lakhs, which not everyone can have, but you can have a room for 1 lakh, and yet you can say, I live in art.
And I think it's a great initiative, frankly, post-COVID, because I think the craftsmen suffered the most during this time period.
उनका तो पहले भी बुरा हाल था because you
हाँ.
see work comes in fits and starts.
That's what I was saying. Yeah.
You know, so
yeah.
right now we are actually in the process of trying to set up with a very large paint company to create modules of where they are constantly employed.
How would that work?
So basically there are few techniques that can be scaled. So there is, the araish. Then there are the frescoes. Now the fresco has to be done in situ. But it can be done as a hand-painted wallpaper as well. The same can be then digitized. So you can have different formats for different pockets, and as a result, the craftsman stays busy, So like with Arash, it's a dying craft because it's such a tedious craft that we're trying to get them tied into a distribution channel so that, okay, a paint company, let's say, has access in pan-India in every city. You need something executed. There's a hesitation to call a craftsman from Jaipur and then say, कि आप अब यहाँ पर इस दीवार को करो. While if you are dealing with an agency, it'll be executed painlessly.
But like wallpapers have been there for a very, very, very long time. But I'm very interested in seeing what, having traditional designs on them, what it would
See, the thing is always my job seems to be to crack open a door which doesn't want to open.
So what made you think of wallpaper?
I've been working with wallpaper for the past 10 years. 10 years now. And
what does it do for a room?
Transforms painlessly.
I like that.
Yeah. Painless transformation. And a wonderful replacement for art, because not all of us have the priority or the pocket or the appreciation for all kinds of art. Right? So it's a very, it's a commitment that you can make as deeply or as lightly as you wish to. So which is why, for example, another thing that I'm suggesting is, paste the panels on a MDF. So you can frame it.
Achha. Or
you can put it on a wall and say you've rented a space. You can tomorrow unscrew it and take it away.
Oh, that's a nice idea.
Because you feel, okay, what if now tomorrow I'm moving, or if I don't want this in this room anymore, but I still love it, how could I move it? Use it as art or use it as panels and move it. So the idea is bring art, the joy of art into your life. When I started working, I brought color. You would never have seen a color like this in the 80s. Okay. So I was suddenly this burst of color.
Yeah, you were known for quite pushing the boundaries of color.
Then I'm like a river now, the dam was broken and now it's sort of meandering. So the colors are there, but they're more mellow.
And in spurts, I think, in your work now.
So, see, I like to use color with control. Color out of control is an assault.
True. Yeah.
So color with balance is a joy.
I am very scared of color, so I'm a more black and white kind of a person. But but in bursts, I could.
See, you got a burst of orange. You got a burst of orange.
In your honor. Actually, what are the other upcoming trends or innovations that you would see coming up in interior design? You've talked about what you wish to say, but
I've been asked this question so often and my answer. And in my 20s seemed arrogant. In my 30s seemed, but she said that earlier. But now, in my late 50s, knocking on 60, I would say, I don't follow trends. I don't predict trends. Because for me, it's such an evolutionary process, but I do end up setting them.
Yeah, I was going to say that. But at this age now, you can say it. I think women really come into their own
exactly.
and I set the
to
trend.
hell with it. No, but I'm saying in my 20s, it was arrogance.
I'm sure it was. Yeah.
It was arrogance.
Yeah.
Right? And that's the arrogance of youth. So.
But now you can take ownership.
I took ownership then also. I'm taking it now also. That I've set the trend, but I can't say what it is till I've set it.
Another thing, I'm just very curious that, when you said you're known for color and you're also known for opulence and luxury, then how do you incorporated with, and we've talked about this in the beginning also, with functionality. Like, it has to function. Is that the basic of it?
Yeah, I mean, applied design without function is foolishness or is amateurish. Right? So function has to, even when you are making something for pure art, even that has a functional aspect, right? Is the strata correct? What is the module size you can go up to? What are the challenges? Will it pass through the doors of the space that it should get into? So function has to come first in order to just set a boundary, right? And then you fill the colors within the boundary.
You were mentioning technology. How much do you, how much do you think it will shape the future of the design world? And how do you incorporate a lot of it?
See, for example, it's going to revolutionize things on 2-3 levels. I mean, we talk about 3D at its basic level that we all are utilizing it.
How did we function without it? No.
It was hand-drawn perspectives and it was bliss because the client didn't know what the hell was going to come out at the end of it till it all came together. So it was bliss in that sense. But also information in terms of visual consumption is so out there that anyone with a Pinterest board is a designer today. Right? So it's revolutionized. For example, simple communication like a WhatsApp group. I think I must have about 40. At any given time, I have about 20 sites going on. But I'm aware of what is happening at every point. So the need to physically be at site is reduced. The 3D systems have made it much more easy for us to visualize and preempt volumetric issues. What is happening now with AI, and again, for example, we use a lot of digitized art now in that in order to increase the resolution, etc. Now through AI, it's also simple. AI with commands can generate images for you, which I personally find, I think maybe because it's at a very early level, I don't find that they have the finesse. And at the end of the day, it is a computer. But the potential of that technology is crazy. I mean, if you look at even when you have to do presentations through your chat GPTs, it is so simple to come out with the content with the right prompt.
Yeah, I think it just gives you prompts though.
See, it can't replace original thought. I'll give you a very simple example. I said, I'm going to give a little test. All right. So I'd come out.
I think we all do that.
Yeah. I'd come out with a brand mantra. And I said, I want a brand mantra for this. Now, what it came out with was fairly standard. So I said, how about this? And suddenly it starts spewing.
Yeah, because once you put in when you push it
so it can't replace original thought. But yes, it can expand on that thought very easily. So a lot of tedium, like I'm sure with you, having grown up in longhand, we'll still write down our ideas and then correct and super correct and correct again and then type it out.
Right? We go the long form way of it. Yeah.
So now that becomes so simple. It's like we did on the studio. When we started the studio, there were the regular drafting boards and everything was being drafted by hand, and it was going into a blueprint with all that ammonia smell and all of that. And then we moved on to computers and AutoCAD and all of that.
On the phone.
So I'm saying it's.
But like you're saying, you just mentioned that now with Pinterest, and anybody can think they're a designer. How do you remain relevant?
Everything has its downside. And whether it's a client or whether it's a designer, if you come armed to me with a Pinterest board, it's a good way for you to communicate how you think.
That's encouraging. So, instead of rejecting it, you'll actually encourage
for example, I'll tell a client that, look, you are saying I want contemporary, or you are saying I want vernacular, or you're saying whatever. What does that mean to you? Show me one image. So I'm not going to regurgitate that image, but it allows me a window into your mind. Right? So I think from that point of view, used correctly, it's a great tool. It's a great tool to create a lookbook, to communicate your first thoughts, right? But in the end, if you're going to simply cut paste them, then that's the level that
you remain at.
Yeah. While if you use it simply as knowledge, it's like going to a library, which is on immediate access.
Yeah, that's a wonderful attitude to keep.
It's a design library, right? I don't have to go and buy. I mean, if you look at my shelves, I've got so many books on design. I haven't bought anything in the past 5 years because everything's on tap.
True.
So
any particular projects in Delhi you're very personally proud of that you've done?
I am actually only like my own house.
We have to see this now.
They've been there. They came there to shoot with me. But I'll tell you why. Because I was not answerable to anyone. And I could take all the licenses and liberties that I needed to. And I could build it in a short time frame.
How much time did it take you?
21 months.
That's it?
That's it.
Okay.
And it's 40,000 square feet, so it's not small. So it's a lot of work. But the thing is, it was a joy because I was taking all the decisions and I could incorporate whether it's all kinds of influences that influence me. Plus, it has a lot of layering because we've lived so much life, right? So whether it's layering.
How long have you been in the same place?
No, I mean, at every stage of my life, I've carried influence, right? So whether it's objects or art or memorabilia. This house we've been in now for 12 years, right? But I'm saying through our lives, we've carried that memorabilia with us, right? So the house gets layered, right? A lot of people, especially people who are in the aspirational category, you're creating that stage for them to build upon. And so that personality is then their personality. So why I love mine the most? Because it's the closest to my personality. So I've done things which are a lot more grand or a lot more, but they're not me. So what do I love and feel proud of is what I feel most authentic about.
And that's your own home. And I think that's what a home should reflect for most. And I have to ask you for a lot of advices to people listening into the podcast. One is, what would you advise homeowners in Delhi who are looking to refresh their interiors? Than going for the overall this thing. I just want to redesign a bit.
I think start with paint. Easiest tool to refresh. Right? Because, as I always say, it's only paint, so you can experiment whether it is neutrals or whether it's an accent color, etc. It can change the way a space feels in terms of lightness, heaviness, happiness or sadness, right? The other thing that's very easy to do again is change fabrics.
Yeah, that's a quick one.
That's a quick one. Add wallpaper.
I was going to say add wallpaper. I'm very tempted to try wallpaper.
Add wallpaper. It's a very quick fix. Wallpaper also, just simple textures are a great quick fix. Because say you don't want to have the hassle of having painters in your home. 2 days and you can transform a
How
space.
does texture work then?
Basically, there is texture inbuilt within the wallpaper. Right? It could be a silk texture. It could be a linen texture. It could be whatever. So you've just got a nice solid color, a neutral color, but it's changes your space without the hassle of paint.
True.
So wallpaper is a great option. Bring in plants.
Yeah, I love that one.
And get rid of clutter. Easy fixes.
Easiest, I know.
So I'm saying, and the most easy of them all, which people do every year, is bring in new cushions.
I've loved them. But this is, you mentioned holding on to memories and what is important and letting go of clutter. How do you balance that? That's a difficult one, no?
I think it's very easy to be objective for others.
Yes.
And tough to do it for yourself. But I find that, for example, if you were entertaining, you suddenly look at your home with a very objective eye.
And that's how you should.
And you're able to declutter.
Oh, that's a quick fix tip.
It's a very quick fix. So you just come in and say, okay, I've got 10 people coming over into my bathroom.
Yeah, that's a very, I love that. Yeah.
So now what would I keep and what would I
Mm.
think it's also, we are so lucky to live in a country that where we can give things away and people can use them. Because everywhere else in the world, the developed part of the world, they have to throw things away.
Yeah, and they end up in the...
So I mean, whether it's clothes, whether it's objects, whether it's, we always have someone we can pass it on to.
You know, we had the founder of Goonj,
Right.
and Anshu Gupta, and he's also won the Maxese Award for, and he was saying that, you know, when you, exactly that, you know, we can give. He says, but what you should be very careful when you're giving is ask the giver, and you know, and you can make your what you are just holding on to would be so useful for somebody.
Exactly.
And yeah,
this is exactly. See, sometimes it's very difficult with things like which are either too good, and but the point is, koi to istemal kare. So I am very good at giving things away, and I've always done it. I did it even when I was a child in my parents' house, and I would, my mother would say, "What the hell did you do and where did it go?" And I said, "It's lying in suitcases. I mean, let's just give it away."
I'm also very good at it.
Yeah,
I'm very proud of it.
Yeah, so it's a good feeling.
Yeah.
So you just feel so much lighter.
Yeah, true. I tell what, you know, if what advice can young interior designers who, you know, what would you give them who are looking to establish, just starting out, what would you?
Well, I think one, be proud of being Indian. You know, so don't try and be the
copies.
West. Yeah, don't try and be, because the whole world looks to old civilizations for inspiration in every genre. So firstly, be proud to be Indian, and then interpret it with your flair. And two, I would say, do get some experience. 3, do not be impatient. If you stay and stick with a job for 3 or 4 years, the amount you will learn, you will not learn in hopping from one place to another, which is the disease of this generation.
I agree, yeah.
You know, 1 year...
Yeah, they want to move.
So when I look at a resume, say no one under 30.
Yeah. No, but you know, I also look when I'm hiring, I look in the resume, how often have they shifted? Because I think it just shows that you're not ready to give of yourself. Yeah.
And see, there is also a nature of a time in your life. And I feel that till about 27, sound like an astrologer.
No, but true.
Till about
I agree.
27, you are figuring out what works. And that's fine. So but as a employer, you need stability.
Yeah.
So there are, very few young people who do end up, I mean, the oldest employee I have is somebody, we are the same age, and he started working for me in 1992.
And he's been with you
He's
since.
been with me since then.
That would be a lovely relationship.
Yeah, it's actually a relationship of no words.
I understand, yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And it's a theek hai, yeah. And again, somebody who worked on the drafting, moved on to computers, moved on and on and on through different technology. You know?
True.
So I think being patient, being disciplined, I find that's a huge missing aspect. A lot of people cover it with creativity. Oh, I'm creative, so I don't need to be disciplined. I think it's very important.
Yeah, between the skill and practice, there has not a very fine line.
And between creativity and being struck by it, you know, if you show up to even if you're working for yourself, you show up at your workstation at the same time every day, regardless of whether you're inspired or not. You know, I think that's something of work ethic I learned from my father.
And being an artist.
Being an artist, very disciplined.
That's
morning to afternoon, break for lunch, back to work, only go out in the evening. So that's, I think, a very important lesson. I mean, I feel very odd. Like, I'm here today because now I'm older.
Yeah, otherwise you can't break a work day.
Can't break a work day. Don't do lunches. I have never done lunches.
I thought I was the only ostrich.
No, I'm so happy. I'm so happy. Like last night, my husband says to me, you know, we just go to work and we come back and, you know, and then you're doing your own thing and then don't you think we should be doing this? I said, what do you want me to do? Go for a drive? Because I'm not going to a mall. You know?
You also anti-mall, so am I.
Oh, I hate
cannot,
malls.
yeah.
I hate malls. Since COVID, I haven't been to.
No, I can imagine.
So it's just become a bahana now.
Mm.
And now I don't want to go.
Mm.
So I think the high street is so much more charming, which again we've lost in Delhi.
In Delhi, at least we have some
Khan
open markets, Khan market. Yeah, I'm like, people are going to troll me for this.
Can you imagine if we had 10 Khan markets?
Yeah, I really wish something.
But that's what Delhi was now. We could have charming. I mean, I feel retail has to be a very charming experience. And by clustering it into confined spaces, it's lost that. You know?
Yeah.
So anyway, that's another conversation.
Yes.
So I don't like to go out in the day because actually I'm so fulfilled
by your work.
Yeah, because there's so much I need to do. The day is not enough. You know? And I'm
truly very happy to hear this, because I often beat myself. Yeah, because I kind of feel I go into a hole and I kind of remain there doing my work, and
we are the monks.
Yeah,
we are the monks. So see, the thing is that if you didn't have this, which drives you so passionately and all-consumingly, you would fill that with something else. But the fact is, we are fortunate that we have this.
Yes, lucky. True.
We're very lucky. My father, I commissioned the last 2 artworks, huge artworks, 10 by 8 each, were in the year before he died.
And they were commissioned by
me. And they were painted. And he went to hospital, and I didn't want to say anything. And because, the client had given him an advance and everything. And he went into hospital in March. In August, he says to me, "Tera kam tayar ho gaya." And he died the following March. So I'm saying, come hail, come shine, come any part of his body falling apart.
Yeah,
that's what was him, the essence of him. And that's what kept him alive. He says, the day you stop being the essence, you will wither away.
What does your work mean to you?
It doesn't mean it's work. My work is a wrong word. It's a medium of expression. So when my younger son was 4, he was, an expert with dinosaurs, like some children now. He could tell you every dinosaur's name, some 100. So we'd just come out of the Natural History Museum in London, and he says to me, "What do you know? You know nothing? You only know design." "I know this, I know this, I know this."
What is I
said, "You're absolutely right. I only know design." So I live, I breathe, and for me, it's very exciting to be like right now I'm working with developing fabric. I'm developing actually original art, which came to me literally like an epiphany last year. And I could not stop working. It would happen between 12 and 2 every night. And it's something which engages all your senses. So you can respond to it visually, you can respond to it audibly, you can respond to it through sense, through fragrance, and through touch. Right? So I said, okay, because what inspired me is a conversation that my father was having with Ved Mehta. Ved Mehta couldn't see and my father couldn't hear. And the debate was, which is more important? Right? So I said, if you can't see art, but you can smell it, you can touch it, you can hear it. What if I can hear, but I can't see? I can see, but I can't. So it should be able to involve all your senses. So that's something I'm working on right now. So for which I need to work with a technology partner. So that's exciting me. I'm working on Arya Samaj Sthal.
Where?
In Rajkot. So that's exciting me because we are supposedly Arya Samajis, But I did not realize how much of the value system was in us till I went into studying it to understand in order to do this for them. You know, so that's exciting me. And so always there is some aspect of the work, because I research everything deeply. So if right now I need to work on a website, I will understand it deeply as to how, what is the front end, what is the back end, which are the various templates, which are not, how are they. So you're learning. So learning is exciting.
Learning is a very important part.
Is exciting.
Yeah, I think that helps you evolve also.
So जब आप अकेले में बैठे हो and अपना कोई काम कर रहे हो, like with your work, you are exploring different things. So you have to learn them. Right? And that is what is keeping us all pistons firing.
I guess. Yes, you're right.
So what we do? Go out to a restaurant. All right. Go out shopping. Okay. Maybe when I need to. Right? Go out and meet some friends. Yes, if it's 4 or 5, it's nice because we'll have a conversation. If it's a party, only if in the mood to dress up. Otherwise, no. Because sometimes you feel you lost your skill to even dress up. Right?
This seems like I'm talking.
Yeah, that's why I'm saying this to you. You lost your skill to dress up. You've lost your social skills. So you need to go out and just flex them a bit.
Yeah. Actually practice that also.
Flex that a bit. Yes. I got it. I can still do this.
Yeah. I'm so bad. I can do it like perhaps once in 2 months.
And that's fine. Yeah. That's fine. I'm good with that. I'm glad to hear that. Travel. Okay. But what for? I mean, is it going to be a place where I'm going to see something that
will inspire
inspire me? Then yes, I'd love to go. If I'm going for a chutti, no, it doesn't interest me. Yeah. But if you take me to a place which is going to inspire me and I'll have a holiday, then yes, I want to go. You would take me to any heritage spot in India, I'd love to go. You know, you're saying it's very hot, we can't go to Kochi, but I want to go. You know?
Yeah.
So it's that. So because over the years, a lot of the things we've done, oh, I don't want to go to one more European city. What's it going to do for me? One more cobblestone street. I know so little that I'd like to know more about India.
Yeah, India can. And in fact, since doing the podcast, I feel, do I know anything about Delhi? Because every person we talk to, there's just so much which comes and there's so much to know about the city.
Endless है ना?
Endless
है. आप एक हिस्सा ले लो. अब आपके निजामुद्दीन ले लो. उसी में इतना कुछ है.
True, yeah. What is your favorite part of Delhi?
What is my favorite part of Delhi? Well, I was born and brought up till I was 7 in Tilak Marg. Which means Tilak Marg, Gymkhana Club, all that. And then my parents moved to Lajpat Nagar, Firoz Gandhi. Now we live on a farm. The minute I cross the Ames flyover and you go past INA and hit Safdarjung's dome, I breathe. And I feel like I've come home. You know? Because suddenly it's everything.
Yeah, that from that part on
it's everything that you've grown up with, everything that you're familiar with. You walked those streets. I mean, my uncle used to live on Motilal Nehru Marg and we were invariably dumped there every summer when my parents would travel on work because my father hated holidays. Is that we would walk from Motilal Nehru Marg to Gymkhana Club. Now today no one can conceive of it because why the pool is going to open at 3 p.m. so you have to be there. So these things about Delhi, this area of Delhi is familiar. It feels like, you know, when women who are married into a different city, सब मैं अपने मायके जा रही हूँ. So I feel कि जब मैं एम्स को क्रॉस कर लिया तो मायके में आ गई.
But Raseel, it was so lovely talking to you,
it felt so familiar, no?
Yeah, I was just going to say that it didn't seem this is the first conversation, and here's to many, many more conversations. Thank you so much.
And to many more with your podcast.
Yes, thank you.
I think you're going to open up a India chapter.
I'd love to do that.
I think so.
I'd love to do that.
And that would be a great way to discover all of it.
Yeah, I'm like, there's just Delhi is consuming me right now. But yes, thank you. Delhi is a very modern city with room to grow. Always in a state of flux, always asking for more. At once traditional, modern, transitional and eclectic, Delhi can be loud and brash, but also simple with clever bits here and there. I hope you enjoyed today's conversation about Raseel Gujral's personal journey. Join us as we keep talking to more Delhiwalas about Delhi and their stories.